With the NBA trade deadline starting to creep onto the horizon, today we look at who the Raptors should be trading for before the deadline. Let's get into it. Welcome to Amateur Sports. This is the channel where you get NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors. So if you like what you see from today's video and you want more of myself talking about the Raptors in videos just like this, make sure you like the video to help spread to new people and subscribe for future content to show your support as we look to hit 3K by the start of April. Just hit 2,100. Very grateful for that. But today, the Raptors topic we have for today is who we should be trading for as we move towards the NBA trade deadline. We know we've talked about the rumors. We talked about the Harden rumors in the past. We recently talked about the Andre Drummond to the Raptors rumors. But I wasn't a fan of either of those trades, and you're kind of seeing what James Harden has kind of done to the Brooklyn Nets. I feel like, they'll figure it out, but at the moment, still a little bit of questions about their defense, still a little bit of questions about, the depth that the team has. And Andre Drummond to the Raptors, I just think that too expensive for a guy who's only going to be a rental and isn't going to stay past his first season. His contract's about to expire, is expensive, doesn't make sense to me. So let's look at who the Raptors should be trading for in this video today. So it's clear the position that we need. I don't think we need any other position but a big man. I think the Raptors, I don't think they need to be buyers at the deadline. I don't necessarily think they should be sellers at the deadline either. I just think they should be looking at, one trade, maybe two trades to bolster this team as, the East is wide open, but I think in reality, the Raptors are not going to be that Eastern Conference contender. I mean, right now there are question marks about them making the playoffs. I fully support it and think that they are going to be about the 5th or 6th seed in the East by the end of the season. But, there's still a lot of question marks to the Raptors, especially the Raptors, who can beat the Milwaukee Bucks and lose to the Minnesota Timberwolves in back-to-back games. That's just kind of the reality of this team. A little bit inconsistent, which doesn't lead to great success come the end of the season, come the postseason, come the playoff time. So one trade to kind of bolster their team, I think they should look towards trading a center. Now, which center do you go for? Obviously, Andre Drummond has been in the mix. You talk about Andre Drummond. You can also talk about Andre Drummond getting bought out and getting him, but I think Andre Drummond is destined for the Nets. If he does get bought out, he's going to be ring chasing, and the Nets is the perfect fit for him. You could talk about Nikola Vucevic. You could talk about Miles Turner. You could also talk about lesser options like, per se, a Hassan Whiteside or a JaVale McGee, who you guys know I'm very fond of, and who you guys know I think the Raptors should be trading for. So, looking at the guys available, think about who's available. Think about who's going to be, a plausible trade for the Toronto Raptors. Now, who do we have to even trade for these kind of players? Well, Kyle Lowry is definitely a name that's consistently come up. We've talked about him getting traded on this channel already. But would you trade Kyle Lowry to acquire a rental big? That's a question I would have. I personally wouldn't do. The only thing I would trade Kyle Lowry for is prospects, picks, like future considerations, like prospects and picks, as I just mentioned. Kyle Lowry is not a guy I'm going to sell just to get a player for rental, and all of a sudden I've lost the greatest Raptor of all time for my team. If Kyle Lowry decides to move on in free agency, that's his business. I don't want it to be on the Raptors for trying to, go try to be a contender, grab a rental player, and get rid of Kyle Lowry to get him. That's not what I would want at all. I would be okay trading Lowry for future considerations like to the Philadelphia 76ers because, send Kyle Lowry to his hometown. I think Philly would benefit heavily from having Kyle Lowry on their team. We get prospects, picks, whatever. Maybe a guy like Danny Green because of the amount of money that he's making. But all these things considered, basically, it's kind of difficult to trade Kyle Lowry, and I wouldn't trade him for the big that I believe we do need for this team. So that leaves you with not a lot of options. I would consider Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and OG Anunoby untouchable just for the sake that these guys are all on 4-year contracts. This is the core we need to build around for those next 4 years. The core we need to get better under. Let them get better and develop together and put the right pieces around them. So those guys are off the table. Norman Powell is an interesting one, but the way he's playing, his ability to create shots, I think we would sorely miss him, even though he is on that player option at the end of the season that he probably won't take the way he's playing right now. I wouldn't be in a rush to trade Norman Powell. well, but I also wouldn't just count it out completely. But I'm not in a rush. If a good offer comes that way, then maybe I get rid of Norman Powell, but not in a rush to do that. So I personally think, people look at Aaron Baines once his 60 days is over and you can actually trade him. I don't think, a team like the Raptors, who really have no depth in the big positions, can afford to give away a guy like Aaron Baines. So, yeah, sure, I'd be open to trading him. I just probably wouldn't. What I would trade for that big is one of our depth players in the wing. We have so many depth wing players. Like, look at the guys we have in the depth wing positions. You've got DeAndre Bembry, you've got Yuta Watanabe, you've got Stanley Johnson, you've got Terrence Davis, you've got Matt Thomas, Patrick McGee as well. There's a lot of names. I may have even forgotten some. There's a lot of names who can fill in the wing positions for the Toronto Raptors. So you can't play them all. Why not get rid of one of them and acquire a cheap big who can come in and do a job for you guys? I believe that the players the Raptors should be trading for are either Hassan Whiteside or JaVale McGee. Guys on cheap contracts, guys who the team would be willing to part with quite easily. I would definitely go after one of these guys. So let's look at the Sacramento Kings situation. They seem to like Richaun Holmes and Marvin Bagley a lot more than they like Hassan Whiteside. Hassan Whiteside is struggling for playtime, so they would be very open to getting rid of that $2.3 million Hassan Whiteside contract. And the Raptors could easily take on that $2.3 million. That would be no problem coming back into the Raptors. I don't have a specific trade in mind, but one of our depth wing players, maybe even just a second round pick, and bring him in, and just more assured rebounding, more assured rim protection is what Hassan Whiteside would offer for the Raptors. Now, the bigger one that I would like to bring into the Raptors is JaVale McGee. JaVale McGee's making like $4.2 million. He's on the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are absolutely stacked with bigs right now. What do they got? Larry Nance, Kevin Love, Jared Allen, and Andre Drummond, as well as JaVale McGee. Yeah, I think that team can afford to part with JaVale McGee, no problem. And an easy trade that I think would work out for both teams is Patrick McGee and a second-round pick. Give those to Cleveland, and I don't think they would mind giving away JaVale McGee. Most people, I think, in this community are not particularly fond of Patrick McGee. Obviously, there's a few of you who are fans of Patrick McGee. I am not a fan of Patrick McGee, and honestly, I wouldn't really miss him. I would like to bring in a big to be, JaVale McGee. Obviously, he's got the jokes about him. He's got the Shaq and the Fool stuff about him. But JaVale McGee has turned into a solid role player. He's been solid on great teams over the last few years. He's got 3 rings. I know it wasn't big contributors to those rings, but 2 great years with Golden State, where really grew into the player that he is right now. Just a guy you can rely on to get rebounds, play decent defense, and not take up a lot of space on offense. Just get out of the way for the main hitters. Like, that's somebody I would see in JaVale McGee. He also did the same role for the Los Angeles Lakers, where he was the starting center for that team up until the NBA Finals. So JaVale McGee has been able to play on better teams and still be in his element. I think that would be a good move for the Raptors. So, a lot of you guys want to really attack this season, like go after an Andre Drummond, a Vucevic, or a Miles Turner. Personally, I can't see any way that we could actually make a trade work for Turner or Vucevic. Like, I just can't even conceive an actual trade in reality that would go through and would make both teams happy. So I'm counting those guys out. I get a ton of questions about Miles Turner and about Nikola Vucevic. I just can't see a trade working out there. I can't see Indiana or Orlando wanting to trade them. So Andre Drummond, as far as Andre Drummond goes, I'll just readdress what I said in my video earlier in the week. But for Andre Drummond, he's making like $29 million, and I don't think he makes the Raptors that much better. Like, does Andre Drummond make us a top 4 seed in the East? I don't really think so. And Andre Drummond, again, on a rental, you'd have to give away a lot of money in order to acquire that contract that he's on. I think it just wouldn't make sense to go after that kind of player. I just don't think he makes us better enough to justify the price you'd have to pay to bring him in. But a guy like JaVale McGee, a guy like Hassan Whiteside, cheap as chips. They come in, they do their job, they make the team better because they'd be a better rebounder than Aaron Baines and probably would be more assured finishing at the rim. And the Raptors are doing, they're doing all right at the moment with Aaron Baines playing. Usually, we've been playing small ball. We played small ball in our last game, but usually Aaron Baines is our starter. Aaron Baines is a career backup, and people are asking Aaron Baines to be more than he actually is. You just have to understand what Aaron Baines is, a career backup. And in his backup role against the Bucks on Tuesday night, I thought he did all right. So I'd be fine with Aaron Baines staying as our backup, just, depth in that position in case injuries happen, in case we need size. I would be completely fine with Aaron Baines playing as our backup big. Maybe even sometimes we have to go big playing in the power forward spot. Did it last year with the Suns with DeAndre Ayton there, and played very well alongside DeAndre Ayton. There's some very deep statistics that would back up Ayton and Baines playing together. But regardless of that, regardless of Baines, I think the Raptors need better rebounding and better finishing at the rim and maybe slightly better rim protection. And I think that JaVale McGee and Hassan Whiteside offer that for the Raptors, definitely make us better. And I think that it is an easy trade that the Raptors would not mind giving the stuff away to get, like a second-round pick in Patrick McCaw, maybe even just a second-round pick, maybe even just like a Terrence Davis or just a Patrick McCaw, something like that. Something cheap, just, we'll take him off your hands. The Sacramento Kings don't really use Whiteside. The Cleveland Cavaliers certainly don't really need a JaVale McGee with the plethora of bigs that they already possess. So I think that this trade just makes sense for the Raptors. I just evaluate the situation right now. The Raptors probably aren't contenders this year, and trading for a big doesn't make them contenders. I know it is a wide open Eastern Conference, but I just don't think it is the Raptors' year. But maybe next year is that year. Maybe next year the Raptors can start to rebuild and put themselves back in contention. But trading for somebody like Andre Drummond, for somebody like Vucevic, for somebody like Miles Turner, that could hurt the Raptors' future. That could make it more difficult next season to contend. I think that the decision the Raptors need to make at the moment is that this year's not our year. Let's be as competitive as possible without sacrificing the future aspirations of this organization. So sacrificing the future aspirations of the organization would be giving up something like a first-round pick in order to acquire a Drummond, a Turner, or Vucevic. Something that wouldn't sacrifice the future, but would make us more competitive right now is somebody like JaVale McGee, is somebody like Hassan Whiteside. And for that reason, the Raptors, I think, go for a cheap contract, go for somebody who won't cost you a lot in a trade negotiation, go for one of those players in a trade rather than a heavy hitter that probably isn't going to make your team that much better. That's how I would go about the Raptors over the next month or so as we lead into the trade deadline, which is on March 25th. Obviously, still a lot of time for the Masai Ujiri and co to discuss what they're going to do about that. Also, we really need to work on Masai Ujiri's contract, but I think that is a matter of time. Still believe that is a matter of time, but if I was in the position of making these trades, I would have already acquired JaVale McGee. I think that is the most logical decision for the Raptors. But again, I always have faith in Masai. I believe in Masai to make the right decisions for the betterment and the future of this Toronto Raptors franchise. I just really hope we don't break the bank to try to bring in somebody like Drummond. It honestly doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Raptors acquire him and all of a sudden they become a top 4 seed in the East, but I truly don't see the Raptors being contenders by trading for Drummond. So let's go after a cheaper guy. Let's develop the players that we currently have, and let's see what we can do with the cap space we have next season, with the trades we can do next season. Let's consider this our transition year, but still be the most competitive team we can be. Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions on the Raptors as they head towards the NBA trade deadline. Who would you trade for? What is a trade that you would make? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. But that wraps up for me for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still here, please like the video if you liked it at any point to help us reach new viewers, and subscribe to Amateur Sports for more content just like this. We have a ton of NBA and Raptor videos, and we also do live watch-alongs for the Raptors games like the one we're going to do tonight for the game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Make sure you are there. We had a great time last time. Check out all the great content you missed out on. 1-point game. Baines at the rim gets to lay up. And one for Baines! Let's go! Some great content. You don't want to miss it tonight. Make sure you are there. At the end of the day, I believe what I say. If you disagree, that is okay. We'll see you again next time for another video.